Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 8th Heritage, Wilmot, and Castle Kilbride Advisory Committee meeting. We'll start off with a territorial acknowledgement read by Yvonne. Oh, your microphone, Yvonne.
All right, I knew that. We have gathered in Wilmot Township on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee and Mississauga peoples. We also want to acknowledge the importance of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant, a peace agreement made between Indigenous nations before the Europeans arrived. It characterizes our collective responsibility to each other and Mother Earth. We should take only what we need, leave enough for others, and keep the dish clean. By acknowledging this covenant and the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, we're reminded of our important connection to this land where we live, learn, and work together as a community.
Thanks, Yvonne. Item number 3, minutes of previous meetings. Recommendation that the minutes of the September 10th meeting be adopted as presented. Do you have a mover and seconder for that? I think Ty, Susan, and Colleen. Any comments, questions, errors, omissions? Seeing none, motion to adopt, or all in favor, sorry. And that's carried. Number 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I haven't seen any with items on the agenda. Any members have a conflict to declare? Seeing none. We'll move on to Heritage Wilmot business. 5.1 is Bridges of Wilmot Township, history for the township website. I think at the last meeting, the subcommittee was working on arranging a meeting. I don't know if that happened. I know Al's still away, so perhaps not. Yvonne?
Yeah, I can address that. Al is still away. He came briefly for the Doug Tallamy event and then zoomed back up north. And Patty, I'm afraid, is off. So what I have is I have copies made of the pages that are required from Spanning the Generations, which is the region of Waterloo. This is sort of has all the information that we need about all the truss bridges. And it includes some that in, northern part of the township that I wasn't even aware that even existed in the first place because they were taken down long before we were sort of keeping regular records. So I have this information. It can be passed on to the township. We haven't really had any guidance on how you want us to proceed with the information we've got. So we can discuss that later, or I can just pass this on to staff. Anyway, so that's sort of where we are with that. We've got a lot of information available on the other truss bridges. So with the Hartman Bridge and the Bridge Street Bridge. I mean, all of that information is also contained in Spanning the Generations. But Oxford Waterloo Bridge, that would be new information as well. That can be updated. So we just need guidance from staff on what you want us to do with the information we've got. So that's sort of where we are.
Okay, thanks, Yvonne. Staff, anything to add? Or perhaps if the subcommittee can get together, maybe township staff could be part of that and then work out what would be good to put up on the website based on that? Okay, thanks.
Just Al won't be back until after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So, okay.
So meeting after Thanksgiving. Excellent. 5.2 is the Oxford Waterloo Bridge. Good segue. We talked about this at the last meeting as well. Recommendation. The following be provided to the Township Infrastructure Service Department as the Heritage Wilmot Castle Kilbride Advisory Committee comments on plans for Oxford Waterloo Bridge 37B. And there's a few recommendations there. 4 recommendations over the next page. I won't read them all out, but the committee fully supports the plan to maintain the bridge, prefers option number 2, with other option have barricades so that heavier vehicles can't access the bridge, and that the committee be provided an opportunity to comment on any plans regarding railings. Staff, was there anything to add to that?
No, I think you provided a pretty good summary. There is some additional information contained in the report, but as mentioned, we did bring update at the previous meeting with options 1 and 2, and then kind of left it with the bridge subcommittee to formulate some comments, which we then provided to the committee as a whole. And then this would serve as endorsements of those comments, and we would forward those off to our Infrastructure Services Department as the comments from Heritage and Castle Advisory Committee as a whole. If there's any questions, obviously we're happy to answer any too.
Okay, thanks, Cameron. I appreciate the additional detail in the report too. I know we had the drawings last time to look at, so it's good to have the additional background. Could I get a mover and seconder for that? Marg, and second, Yvonne. Any comments, questions? Going once, twice? Oh, yeah, Alan?
Yeah, going with option 2 looks great. I was just wondering, is there any parking provided down there? In the pictures, there's a turnaround, but I don't see any parking.
So it was discussed a little bit at the council meeting last night, but the idea is that, you know, the limited number of cars that will go all at once will park along that section of Oxford-Waterloo Road. So there isn't like a dedicated parking lot per se, but again, they'll kind of line the roadway if they're going to go down there, use the multi-use trail or anything like that. So
That's great. You know, it could be the start of a trail or someone unloading their bike to start biking at that point. Yeah.
Or kayaking or canoeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need a picnic table there as well.
That's sparked another question then. So would there be space at the turnaround, I wonder, to possibly park or unload? I guess that's all within the road allowance anyway.
There was some details again discussed last night regarding the actual placement of the turnaround. However, I would imagine that that turnaround specifically wouldn't necessarily be intended for parking, just so that larger vehicles can turn around in that. But again, that would be addressed probably through any sort of signage at a future time. But that's the intent, more of like a design standpoint. But certainly that's a little bit beyond what is here tonight. But
Okay, great. Anyone else? Oh, Stuart?
Just, I think from Council's Director Mullenhouse instructed us last night, there will be some site-specific investigation about where the appropriate turnaround would be. Option 2 was the one that was voted or accepted, but there could be some movement of that turnaround to provide additional parking, and then as well to look at the ditch profile to determine both access to the fields and as well where it would make sense in terms of the turnaround being the least costly in terms of soil condition and steepness of the bank, requiring a lower amount of gravel in that location. So I think there's, and then continued discussion and interaction with the neighbors. So I think there's a little bit of flux associated with it. But I think in essence, option 2 was where we landed last night.
Thanks, Councillor. Anyone else? Okay, we had the recommendation then with the 4 points on there. All in favor? That is carried. Excellent. Moving along to 5.3, non-designated register. I can start with an update from the subcommittee, and others can feel free to chime in, but we'd hope to get together this month to talk about the next kind of priorities on the list. Schedules didn't work out to have that happen, but we'll arrange a meeting the next little bit, and then hopefully have an update for the next meeting. Anyone else? No? All right. So more to follow. 5.4, 115 Peel Street. This was a new item added to the agenda after the first version came out. So thanks, Cameron, for sending the updated one. There's a recommendation to endorse the proposed sign replacement as presented in report HCHC 14-24. And Cameron, I see you have stuff up on the screen, so I'll let you speak to this one.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, again, this was an addition to the agenda last night in response to the owner of Heart and Home Creations looking to replace their sign, hopefully as soon as possible. So again, this is 115 Peel Street, which is part of obviously downtown New Hamburg and forms a greater part of the New Hamburg Conservation District. So this building was constructed circa 1915 and is classified as what we call in the district as classification B, which contributes to the ambience of the district overall. So as we've discussed in the past, any sort of exterior alterations to buildings within the district require a heritage permit, which involves review by this committee. So again, the owner is proposing to replace the sign, which would read Heart and Home Creations. The previous sign, as you can see, this picture was taken 2 days ago. It's already been removed and the fascia has been prepped in preparation for the new sign. So the previous color most recently was a dark, kind of a shade of, I guess you could say a shade of black, and it's just kind of been touched up very lightly in preparation for the new sign. The new sign itself will be what they call pin mount, gold in color with individual lettering, similar to the sign at Stonetown Travel is being used as a model. So you can see here you have like a Times New Roman font, all in capital letters, individual lettering, which would in this case also be pin mount. So there are design guidelines in the Heritage Conservation District document that can be relied on when examining heritage permits, and so the building policies for Type B buildings state that when possible, historically accurate colors should be used, and while natural materials are preferred, such as wood or brick, in some cases they say quote unquote man-made materials are acceptable for maintenance purposes. So the sign is proposed to be made out of a PVC type material, so again helping with the long-term maintenance. And the document also speaks to renovations that are complementary to the district, and staff do feel that the new sign that is proposed on this building would complement the surrounding buildings and is similar to what you would find again on other buildings within the district, as well as what is currently the Murray's Clothing and Footwear building. They do have a very similar sign with individual lettering that's kind of a Times New Roman font. It is a little bit of a different color, obviously, but is similar in nature to what's being proposed here. Overall, staff are of the opinion that the upgraded signage will continue to be compatible with other buildings within the district and are recommending endorsement tonight.
Thanks, Cameron. Any comments, questions from the committee? Yvonne?
Will this be lit at all?
To my knowledge, it will not be lit, no. I should add, actually, that in the future, not forming part of this, they are planning on adding lamps above. So at that time, we would most likely bring something back to the committee. So that is how they will be lit in the future.
Excellent. Councillor?
Are you looking for a motion to move this forward? I would so move.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Oh, there's a good image behind us.
So if I may, obviously, you know, if we look at the immediate surroundings, the examples, you have the Old Country Restaurant, which obviously has a very contemporary sign, which is not probably a comparison you want to be drawing from, but Murray's Clothing and Footwear, which is, you know, one building over, has again a very similar sign style. And this again speaks to the intent of the Heritage Conservation District design guidelines on the types of signage that are to be promoted and to be achieved for businesses. So as we go through new signs for a lot of these businesses, it's to create a consistency, obviously, but throughout time, there's been a little bit of inconsistency. Obviously, you have it right across the street, Shortstop, which is unique in itself. But again, the design guidelines speak to objectives for design for signage within the district, and this fits. Yeah.
Excellent, thanks, Cameron. I do like that it's, you know, pardon? I appreciate that it's in the traditional sign band above the door, and that it's going to be mounted in a way that doesn't really require a lot of interference with the building, so that's good. Any other comments, questions? All right, Councillor Cressman move the recommendation, seconder Colleen. All in favor? That's carried. Find my agenda page here. Oh yes, 5.5 then, St. James Lutheran Church. Update from staff, or I think Colleen, did you have something on that?
Yes, I'd just like to bring forward, as Chair of Council of St. James Church, we have in the last few years been, as a lot of churches in the area, finding ourselves dwindling in size. And so to be able to keep our doors open, we've had to think of ways of being able to do that. So we are in the process of selling St. James Church. And as it being a heritage designated in 2019, I wanted to bring it forward to the committee that you would be aware the people that are at this point putting an offer on the church are aware that it is a designated heritage, and it is agreement with them that they will not change anything, as we have stated that we would never change anything that has been designated on it. They're very pleased to be able to bring their congregation in. They're a new church, Oasis Mennonite Church, and it's young families, and it's so wonderful to see young families coming in. Now, St. James isn't going to be closing the doors on us. We will always have a Lutheran church in Baden as long as we can. We will be renting, as they are renting from us. They now will be the owners, and we will rent from them. So we will still have a church service every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, and all are welcome, and we'll be there as long as we can be. And so I just wanted to report this to you so that everybody is aware of what is happening at St. James.
Well, thanks, Colleen. It's obviously sad to hear that the church is dwindling and has to sell, but I mean, it's a good reuse of the building, and it's you know, it's nice that the congregation is going to go in there and that you'll still be there, so that's good. Excellent. Ren?
I'd just like to ask Colleen, what is going to happen with all the church artifacts?
Well, I have certainly been talking to our heritage, and they will be going through all the artifacts that we have. Of course, we have the wonderful light fixtures and things that Sir Adam Beck came and turned the hydro on at the church, if you know, most of you are aware of. So we have all that. We have the history, all, you know, from Baden from 1864 when we actually built the church. And those artifacts will be able to come to the heritage for storage, as long as whatever. Long story short, Sherry's going through everything and Taylor, and they will be deciding what they can store. And, you know, there is going to be items that we can't keep. Unfortunately, it's like everybody in their homes. You can't keep every hydro bill or anything that you've ever had, but we are going to, that will be turned over. There won't be nothing lost of significance.
Okay, now, what about, I know when I was with the Livingston Presbyterian, that was owned by the Presbyterian Church of Canada, so all the records, they went down to Toronto. With this church, this is a locally owned church, so all the artifacts remain the property of the
That's correct.
council?
They are ours, and the proceeds from the sale, we are going to improve Fairmont Cemetery. So there will be, you will be able to see, of course, improvements to the cemetery, which we wouldn't have been able to do.
And long-term effects of the cemetery would be, is that owned by the...
It is owned by our church as long as we still have St. James Lutheran Church. So I'm saying in 10, 15 years, who knows how long we will be here. At that point, it would then go into township ownership, the cemetery. Yeah, but we will be maintaining it as long as we are a congregation. And
Excellent. Well, thanks for sharing. Councillor.
Yes, it's my understanding, because in New Dundee we have a union cemetery owned by a variety of the churches in New Dundee. There's a perpetual care fund that has to be maintained to provide funds for the maintenance, long-term maintenance of that. So has there not been perpetual care fund built up over the years? Or, you know, I'm not sure how these operate in other jurisdictions.
it's always been responsibility of St. James. It's St. James Church, and basically if you're not a member, then you need to get permission from the church to be buried there.
All right. Anything else? Yvonne?
Will the church bell still ring?
Of course.
Thank you.
Good question. Very important. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Okay. Moving on then to 5.6, which was the Heritage Conservation District study document on making the study document searchable and more accessible. Cameron, did you want to speak to that one?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, this was just to bring, obviously it's timely with the heritage permit being discussed tonight and endorsed by this committee, how frequently we rely on this document, being the Heritage Conservation District study. So the document itself was completed in 1992. There were several revisions in the early 90s, like 1990 and 1991, and then it was finally issued in August of 1992. So the version that we have on our website and that staff rely on, the public rely on, has been circulated various times, scanned from an original copy. As you can see here, there's hole punches through this document, which isn't obviously a minor detail, but more importantly, as it's been scanned various times, it is difficult to make out various photographs contained in the document. Here we have, the water lot building, which is, as you can tell, this example is a little more difficult to discern some of the architectural features just because of the quality of the picture. Essentially, the ultimate goal for staff and for committee would be to, improve on this document by, becoming AODA compliant, with the added bonus of obviously having a document that's easier to access through searchable text, as well as improved quality of the overall document, because again, as mentioned, it's been scanned various times. We have not been able to locate an original copy. We have reached out to people who were around during the inception of the document, such as Al Juncker, who is going to be looking for, seeing if he has an original copy. He's still, stay tuned. Hopefully, he does, and we can, a lot of those photos we can input into this document and bring it up to a better quality. So really there's kind of two objectives here that we'd be looking, again, to either locate an original copy of the document so we can put some of these pictures in, or the exact photographs that were used at that time, so they can be referenced potentially in like an additional appendix, and also working to create again that accessible document that was mentioned. So it's perhaps something that staff can follow up on, seeing if there is committee interest in assisting in, potentially typing sections. If, as the expression goes, many hands make light work. So if individual committee members were to take sections, I mean, the document itself is 207 pages, but much of that is graphics, photos, surveys, maps of the district. So probably the actual text portion would be closer to 100 pages. So again, the idea is to have that document more accessible. So I will put it out to the committee as a whole, potentially in an email, because I know we're missing a couple members, and depending on what Al comes up with in his search, if there's any willingness from committee members to help out on this project, certainly it would be welcome to bring this document back to its glory and make it pretty accessible for everyone who wants to read all the hard work that was put into it.
Yeah, thanks, Cameron. I think that's a great idea. I may have a slightly better PDF at work, but it might just be the screen with how the images look, but I feel like the one I'll use is a little nicer than that one. So I'll check. Yeah,
I mean, this was an extreme example. There's some of the pictures are at varying degrees of quality, as you can see. That was probably one of the ones that are more difficult to discern, but.
Okay. Questions from Yvonne and then Ren?
I think I might have an original copy squirreled away at the library. Yeah, I did. I don't think it was cataloged, but I did keep a copy. I don't know if it was an original, but it's really a lot better than that. And I'm also, I'd be willing to volunteer to keyboard because it's something I do anyway, so, okay.
Ren?
Why is it so difficult to find the original printer of that?
I mean, that's a great question. The document itself is, well over, I shouldn't say well over, 30 years old. So clearly it's been typed at some point in time and it's been scanned, and unfortunately we're unable to locate that original document, and that's where we're at today. There were various members on the I guess you could call it a steering committee at that time. So starting with reaching out to them, see if they have originals, and hopefully there's one at the library.
Yeah, because Ernie Ritz and Al and that were integral with that committee. You'd think that Ernie would have kept it, the printing in town, or he might have the originals or whatever, I don't know. It's just unusual you wouldn't be able to find the printer.
Yeah. I totally agree. That's why we're kind of in the fact-finding initial stages of seeing if anyone has it, right? And starting there, and ideally with the pictures, being able to input those pictures, and then the typing is a separate aspect of that.
Mark?
Hi, I believe even back then, if the Heritage Conservation District was approved and written, I think you had to file a copy with the ministry. The Heritage Ministry. It has a different name now, but that's what it was back then. And I'm wondering if we contacted them, if they would have a copy. They may have, because I think you had to contribute. You had to send them a copy. So that would be one place to explore.
Okay, we'll certainly try that. We appreciate that.
Okay.
I've got lots of experience at work making documents AOD accessible, so happy to help with that part. Any other comments, questions? All right. Thanks for bringing that forward. Hopefully we can get the document into ship shape. I think we can move on to 5.7, Heritage Day 2025. We talked about this a little bit at the last meeting, but wanted to talk a bit more on planning of Heritage Day. Staff, I don't know if you had anything to add to that. No, Sherry?
I did check the availability for the New Dundee Community Center for February 15th, and it is available.
Excellent. And is that Family Day weekend? Okay. Yeah. So the Saturday of Family Day weekend? Okay. Oh, that'd be fun too.
It's my sister's birthday.
So I think we just wanted to open up the floor and just chat about what the event could look like, possible themes. I know there was a couple mentioned last time. Mark?
We haven't come up with a theme yet, have we?
No.
No.
No, we hadn't yet. There was the idea, I think you actually mentioned it, about barns. Barns would be a good one.
Yes, that's right.
And then I don't recall what else was mentioned. Do you guys remember?
Because it's the anniversary of the township, that was suggested, and I think that would be a great one.
Which anniversary are we talking? 100?
175th anniversary.
Wow.
175 years of heritage.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I just think that would be a good one.
Yeah.
Mark?
I think I might have mentioned at the last meeting, as far as a theme on barns is concerned, it would be very appropriate since Wilmot's rural and so on. But I don't know if Sherry has had a chance to look, but I did mention that there was a complete set of digitized photographs of an awful lot of barns in Wilmot Township. That was done. I did some of that, and some other people helped as well. But it was the Heritage Planning Advisory Committee from the region that took that project on. And because so many of our rural barns seem to be, really old ones, seem to be disappearing, they did this project at least, I think, before COVID, for sure. And there are pictures of an awful lot of barns in Wilmot and in Woolwich and whatever's left in Cambridge and North. We did them everywhere, but I did a lot of them in Wilmot.
I actually was just looking at those on Friday, and we do have the ones that you took from Wilmot.
Good.
Yes.
Maybe it's like a combined theme. Maybe we have barns, but also tied to the townships, the founding of the township. There's probably some barns that are close-ish to that age too, at least 1800s.
I know.
Susan?
1830.
1830?
The barns is a great idea, Marge. But I think because it's the township's anniversary this year, next year would be too late for the anniversary type thing. But barns might be possible for next heritage after this one, maybe?
I'm a bit, sorry,
Just a thought.
Yeah.
I'm a bit lost. The 175th is this year or next year?
25th,
Oh, well, it's perfect then.
yes.
We can celebrate the 175th plus barns.
Plus barn.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That would be
We
cool.
can't ignore the 175th. It's special. You think
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, yeah.
to have a Heritage Day that combines barns plus? No.
I mean, I wasn't referring to the combination of the barns per se. I'm just saying we should honor the heritage of the last 175 years. If we're not combining it with barns, it's something that we can defer to the next heritage. Not
okay.
this coming
Oh,
one, but the
you wanted
next. 26.
You want to do it separately?
Just a thought.
Okay. Both could work, I think. Yvonne?
I think it would be appropriate to celebrate 175 years, but that's a really generic, that's a huge theme, right? 175 years includes like everything. So I think focusing on something a little bit small. We want to celebrate it, of course, but I'm just wondering if focusing on something a little bit, right? I don't know. Just thought.
Yeah. Ben?
Is the township planning on doing anything, or is it just us that would be doing it?
Good question. Staff, any? Nothing to date?
Is the staff even aware it's 175?
I think it was Sherry that
Sherry's
mentioned
idea.
it. Cameron?
Yeah, if I can just refresh some of the committee members' memories, not everyone was here at the last meeting. I did reference the minutes from like the February meeting where it was discussed. There was some discussion again about bringing potentially a speaker back to the event, which helps to add some structure. So just reminding the committee that that was discussed. So if they want to explore that option again this year. Again, there were discussions relating to it being on Family Day, which seemed to help turnout, if anything. And again, the 175th was Sherry's idea initially. And other than that, that's pretty much covers it. But it was mentioned a little bit at the last meeting. I know we are still missing a few members. I know Al has opinions as well on Heritage Day. So as long as we can continue to advance it, because before you know it, at our next meeting, if November, it's already going to be 3 months away. So,
And I think certainly by the holiday break, I think sending out a save the date or something would be good. I think that's what we did last year. I don't quite remember the time frame of that, but I know it was probably around then. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Alan?
It might be getting a little big, but with our topic about bridges earlier, putting the bridges into that discussion is around the barns. How did you get to the barns? Where are the roads? Seeing that the bridges are coming down. So.
Yeah, maybe it's like kind of rural network or I don't know, something like that. Because bridges, agriculture.
Bridges to the future. Bridges to the future.
Yeah.
Yes, I was kind of wondering about Family Day weekend and families of 1825 and where the settlement areas were and looking at some that have been, in Wilmot for extended periods of time. Now, I don't know if that's exclusionary in today's, whether that's not an acceptable focus point, that it excludes people. But it would tie into the theme of family weekend, or you could just have homes, because families have to live in homes. So rather than featuring barns, we would look at trying to find pictures of homes that date back to where families lived in those times, and you could have the succession of families that lived in this home over that period of 175 years. So it could be kind of this whole idea of families have been a part of Wilmot Township. This is some of the earlier homes and the different families that lived in these homes and the continuity that these homes provided for the community. So, I don't know.
Good thoughts, too. Mark?
I think perhaps an idea would be to have a subcommittee. There are a lot of really good ideas, and if you consider barns and homes and bridges and the 175th, that's a lot. We need to focus in on what, and I agree families would be interesting, but then you're looking at houses plus barns, and that's an awful lot of work, and it's a lot to put into one day. But so you need to have a committee perhaps and discuss what you want to do, because I don't really think you can do all of it. I think it's too much.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to mention having the subcommittee meet again. I don't recall all the members that we had, but I have to refresh. Susan?
I was just going to ask, are we carrying on with the existing subcommittee, or were you forming a new one? I think it was like Al, me, and at that point it was Mr. Martin, Councillor Martin, and you, and Sherry jumped in, right? Okay.
Red?
So what would we have to do to get the township on board with that 175th theme, because when we did the 150th, I was on that, and the mayor was right on board with that. He organized, it was a really, really big event, and we had a lot of people involved, and it was a big celebration. And if they don't get on board, then that really says to me that they don't really care.
Yeah, I think maybe it makes sense to start with our subcommittee, and if we can have Sherry join again, and then we can talk about ideas. Cameron?
Yeah, if I was able to find minutes from the, I think it was October 2023 meeting, and the subcommittee for Heritage Day was Patty, Susan, Councillor Martin, yourself, Nick, and it says plus one more member to be determined following the meeting. So I can't remember who that additional member was, unless anyone here recalls being on that subcommittee, but
I
again.
don't think Patty was. I don't recall Patty being on it.
I'm wondering if Patty maybe had too much going on, so she
There was a
wasn't able to,
reason.
and then we had Al step in.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at my notes too.
She was, according to Andrew, she was going to be gone that day, so she stepped off. I'm just, again, reading from the minutes here. So that was what was recommended at that October meeting. So I'm not sure. So I guess we can say with certainty it was Susan, Nick, Councillor Martin, and then at least one more member here, probably Al. Yeah, so then at that point, recognizing that Patty wasn't on the committee at that time, and Councillor Martin is no longer on this committee, it would probably be worthwhile to establish a new subcommittee.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. So, anyone, subcommittee? Susan, Colleen? Anyone else? I'll be on the subcommittee again, and then maybe we'll check with Al. Councillor?
Are we volunteers? Is this what this is? I'll do what I can.
Excellent. So then we should check with Al when he's back to see if he's interested again. But so it sounds like subcommittee we would have Colleen, Susan, Councillor Cressman, myself, and then possibly Al. Stuart's just fine? All right. Do we need a motion to formally have that as a subcommittee? Okay. Mark? Mark moves. And Yvonne? Perfect. All in favor? All right. We have a subcommittee. And then we'll maybe just send an email around after the meeting. We'll include Al and see if we can set up a meeting the next little bit. Cameron, did you guys want to do that, or do you want me to do that?
I'll leave that up to you. Would you like to, or?
Sure, I can.
Okay, sure. And then I was just writing here, I'm going to send a note for some other items, so that's perfect.
Okay. Excellent. I think that wraps up. Oh, Yvonne?
I just wanted to quickly say that I like the idea of having a speaker, because that would really add another layer of interest, because there's a lot to see, but having like a focal point or something to kind of lead up to is a really good idea.
Yeah, it's a good point, and it worked well in previous years when we did that. We had some time to, mingle and check stuff out, and then the speaker gave a bit of structure, and then everyone could mingle and disperse after that. So I guess the task for the subcommittee, think about possible speakers that would tie in once we decide on what the theme would be. Anything else? Heritage Day? All right. Moving on then to 6.1, Castle Kilbride Activities Update. Recommendation to receive report HCC 13-24 for information purposes. Sherry, did you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, we usually classify September as one of our down times, but this year, again, it was really busy, and we were quite excited. We had our 30th anniversary open house on September 22nd. We only had 36 people participate, but it was still nice to see people come out and remember those early days. We still do have the exhibit up in the Belvedere, and last week we hosted 3 classes from WO, and while they were up in the Belvedere, all of them were like, Wayne Gretzky was here in 1994. So that was quite popular with them. Last year's actually numbers for 2003 look higher than what we had, and that's just because we had a concert in September. Because we had so many rain delays, but we didn't have that this year. We were able to pull all of our concerts off. We also took down the Central Ontario Art Association's exhibit, and they were quite excited. They had 65 entries. It was the best juried show that they'd had in a long time. So they have booked for next year, and they want to book for September of next year instead of August. We also, Taylor and I just last week met with the WO art teacher, and we're going to host a student juried exhibition here as well. So we're quite excited about that. We've never done that before. We only had a couple of donations. We had an original smoking set from Castle Kilbride that was returned, and it doesn't sound that exciting, but it actually is a beautiful enameled set that we're quite happy to have. And Stuart, you'd be happy to know that we also got a wagon seat from the Weber Carriage Works of New Dundee from a gentleman, a descendant who now lives in Buffalo. So it's probably seen better days, the seat, but we're still happy to have it and see what we can do and maybe get that on display in the New Dundee Community Center. Especially, I mean, we definitely will have it there for Heritage Day. Yeah, I think that's pretty much a summary of what we've been up to. We helped at the Fall Fair. We gave a coffee talk at the Legion. Taylor hosted the Waterloo Wellington social media network here. And we've also been working with the Arts and Culture Master Plan as well. The survey closed yesterday, so we're just getting the summary for that to pass along to Steps Public Art. Are there any questions?
I just want to say I received a positive compliment on having the art display here, and they really appreciated it, and they look forward to it another year.
Excellent. I'm happy to hear that.
I just want to note you guys were busy. Even though it was lower than last year, that's still a lot of people that came through the castle. That's very cool. Mark?
I wondered, Chair, if you wanted to mention the donation of the Orange Ledger books.
Oh yes, officially we have accepted Marg's ledger books into the archives. Work that Marg and her husband did surveying the properties in Wilmot. And thank you very much for donating them. We really appreciate that.
Would it be okay if I elaborated what these books contain so that you understand?
Absolutely.
Back in the early 1970s, through the Waterloo Historical Society, they encouraged members, which we were members of, to go and do surveys of various cities, townships. We chose the north half of Wilmot Township, with the border being Snyder's Road and then the north border. And what we did was we searched through, we got microfiche film from Ottawa of 1851 and 1861 and went through it at the Kitchener Public Library, looking for names and people that lived in Wilmot Township, and then coordinated that with the land office records of who owned what, and also the Tremaine map of 1861. So that's all written out in these books that are ledger books about this big with an orange cover, and I, of course, don't need them anymore, and so I thought maybe the township could, but it's not digitized, it's all hand printed. So there you go.
That's an amazing resource, by the way. That's very cool. I can't imagine how much work that would have been to put all that together. Yeah. Yvonne?
Is that something that would eventually be scanned?
Yes, that is definitely a project that we can work on when we have summer students, scanning them in and digitizing them. Mm-hmm.
Did you find any liens on any property? I was asking, did you find any liens that existed still on any properties?
In the old days, they were called quick claims, and it was similar to that. So it's not exactly a lien. They didn't really call it that, and I'm not quite familiar as to how they would have dealt with something like that. But there are a number of, the old records had B&S, which means bargain and sale, so that you would buy a property. And then there were mortgages, which was interesting, because we found that if, suppose in 1861, somebody bought a property and then they put a mortgage on it a couple of years later, that gives you a good clue as to when the house was built. They often put mortgages on it when they wanted to put up barns and houses and that sort of thing.
Interesting. Thanks, Mark. Any other questions about the report? All right. Then moving on to number 7, announcements, info sharing, items for the next meeting. I'll just open it up to members.
Sorry,
once,
Nick,
twice.
if we could just, did we get a motion for that to receive Sherry's report or not?
Oh, thanks.
No problem. I
No, we
just
didn't.
want to, for the minutes.
Yeah. Sorry. Yvonne? And second? Stuart? Not Councillor Cressman. Excellent. All in favor? All right, that's carried. Thanks for the reminder, Cameron. Back to announcements or info sharing, next meeting items. Going once, twice? All right. Our next meeting, November 12th at 7. And motion to adjourn. Ren? And Susan? All in favor? We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.